is a mix of Eros and Lotus. Lotus. Hello everybody, my name is CulBlu and I'm bringing you guys this video, the 5th video in the CulBlu Goes Alpha series. That's right, video number 5. Who'd ever thought it'd take this long to get video number 5 out? But this video is going to be talking about the color wheel theory of love. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically a theory on love with colors. It's kind of the way I explain it. It's basically a theory found by some guy named Lee something. You can go look it up if you want to. I'll put a link to the source material that I'm using. But it's a theory that's kind of comparing different emotional states or different ways that people love or express their love and comparing them to colors with different names and categories for each color. I want to try to make a video that's more so about the basics of the whole theory, so that way we can have something on the internet, something on YouTube that's tangible that we can watch and explain everything. So that's what this video is for, so let's go ahead and focus on that. So for anybody who doesn't know what the color wheel theory of love looks like, this is kind of what it looks like. Yes, I know this is a triangle. I'm sorry about the technicalities, but I'll go ahead and put an actual picture of the color wheel theory of love right up here so you guys can take a look at it. The idea behind the color wheel theory of love is that it has different categories and different colors can mix and intertwine. So it shows that, you know, even though there's 3 primary colors in the color wheel theory of love, you can also blend things and make different colors. So the color wheel theory of love has 3 primary colors and 3 secondary colors. Basically, the 3 primary colors can mix together to make secondary colors, and there's technically more colors like tertiary colors or tricolors or quad colors, but we're going to focus on the 3 primaries because that's what we're most concerned about right now. And then we're going to focus on the 3 secondaries because that's part of the mixing of the colors. And we'll leave it at that. So basic surface level definitions are what you're going to get here. So the 3 primary categories in the color wheel theory of love is Lotus, Storge, and Eros. And I'm pretty sure I'm butchering all those names, but it's okay guys, just go with it, So we'll start with Lotus, and Lotus is the Greek word for game. And it's basically treating love or treating relationships as a game. It's not necessarily saying that you're playing with people's hearts or playing with people's emotions. It's just more so saying that you're not really concerned about settling down and having a permanent thing. You're kind of more so about doing the quick little hookup, maybe short-term relationship, and then ending everything because you will find other things interesting in other places. And Lotus is a very interesting one in the sense that, you know, besides being the first one we're going to talk about, it kind of explains some people who like to jump from relationship to relationship in a relatively short period of time. And it also explains those people who like to, you know, never really have a committed relationship, just maybe have 4 or 5 different partners where they'll go around and just do whatever they want with the partners when it's convenient for them, and then they'll go about their way. One of the interesting things about Lotus as well is the fact that there, of course, commitment is sometimes an issue with them. But when a commitment does start coming to the picture, they usually tend to push people away. That's one of the generic definitions that came from the article, or at least I got from the article. But the most thing is like Lotus is more about having people available to have experiences with, as opposed to having somebody there committed and ready to, you know, just live the rest of your life with together. So Lotus is more so about having those individual relationships where you can just do things and then go about your way, do things with someone else, go about your way, and just have fun. They're more about the fun of things as opposed to the commitment. So that's where Lotus comes in. The next one on the list will be Storge, or Storge, or Storage, Storge, Storge, I don't know, something like that. So that one's going to be the next one. That is the Greek word for familial love or family love. It's basically the same type of bond that you have with your brother or sister, maybe sometimes your father, maybe even a favorite teacher that you've had, or the best friend that you have for forever. Storge is more about, like I said, the familiar love, where it's not necessarily a romantic interest, not necessarily like a super passionate emotional investment. It's more like a trusting relationship where you have that sense of trust with this person. They're familiar, there's somebody that you're used to being with, there's somebody that you're used to being around, and you just have that bond with them. So I like to think of Storge as bonding with people to where you have enough trust in them that you will be okay with them, you know, being there for you or having a relationship with you. That's kind of what it comes down to. And Storge is interesting because a lot of times it can turn into a love interest, especially when you're talking in the case of like having a childhood friend who you grew up with throughout high school and then college, and you become high school sweethearts and you get married in college, and next thing you know, you're having the longest life and the best, most fulfilling life ever. Sure, that can happen. It's not going to happen for everybody, and pretty sure it's not going to happen for everybody ever. But Storge does explain that type of relationship, does explain that in its full breadth. And one of the cool things about Storge as well is sometimes you have a lot of relationships where people get married and have a long-term relationship, they can eventually degrade down to storgy. Not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but more so saying, like, you know, maybe your parents start off with a very passionate Eros style love where they're doing everything together, they're passionate, they're all together, whatever, and then they eventually downgrade and, you know, fall into storgy, which is a more, I think, the stablest form of love, I guess you can have somebody, because it's less based on love and emotions and more so based on that trusting bond. And it's kind of cool to consider. Moving on to the third and last primary color, which is the one I like the most because I identify as this. We have Eros, and Eros is the Greek word for passion and erotic. That's literally it. I'm sorry, guys. This is what the word was. But it basically explains love in the sense of the person who's experiencing or the person who is giving the love is giving it very passionately in the sense that they're fully committed, they're ready for this, they're ready for the risk and rewards of love, they're ready for all the complications, they're ready to take the baggage from the other person and carry it with them. They want to be there, they want to be the very best that they can be for the person that they're trying to pursue. They want to be the best lover, they want to be the best emotionally stable person, they want to be there for the person. And like I said, I identify as this, and a lot of people like to call Eros as the hopeless romantic. So a lot of romantic comedies feature an Eros person where he's like, oh, I love you, and then the girl is like, yo dog, chill out, you're like suffocating me with all these emotions you keep throwing at me. So that's kind of where it comes in, and we all know how those romantic comedies usually end, sure, whatever, after happily ever after, or yeah, they both go their different ways, or they find happiness somewhere else. But the main thing with Eros is that sense of passion and erotic, where you do everything emotionally and physically passionately with your partner. You love exploring different avenues to have fun with each other. You also love having that sense of emotional investment, and that's where Eros comes in. So Eros, passion, erotic, that's what I identify as. So I'm cool with that, and it felt really weird reading that because it kind of defined me, but we'll talk about that later. So moving on to the three secondary colors, we have Pragma, Agape, and Mania, and we'll talk about those three. So Pragma is the first one we're going to talk about, and Pragma is a mix of Lotus and Storge. And Pragma is the practicality of love, or the practical relationship. Not necessarily invested in, you know, oh, I'm super passionate about you, or oh, we have this bond between us. It's more so about the practicality of your situation. So I keep saying practicality. It's kind of like a thing of, you know, because you're in this situation, you want to be with that person. Because you're in this financial situation right now, it will be better for both of you, or mutually beneficial for both of you, to have a relationship together. One perfect example of this would be a royal family. Like if a royal family on one side wants to have a political bond with the royal family on the other side, they can have their kids marry, and next thing you know, the families are related, and they have the power couples come in. So that's where that comes in. Also, from the state of arranged marriages, this is where Pragma comes in, because you don't necessarily have to love the other person super passionately. It's just as long as the families can be connected, just as long as you guys can can agree with each other to raise a family and live life in a very practical manner. That's what it's all about. So Pragma is all about the practicality of love, much less about the actual truly passionate love. So the second one we'll talk about is Agape, and Agape is a mix of Eros and Storge. And those two combine to form Agape. And Agape is the purest form of love. It's basically having that bond with somebody that you're super passionate about, you're super in love with, and you're willing to love them unconditionally. And that's the main thing. Loving somebody unconditionally fits into the category of Agape. Loving them despite their faults, loving them despite some things they may have done in the past, loving them despite some things you may have done in the past. Just loving them unconditionally is what it's all about. So you're always willing to give them what they need, to give them what they want, and you're not really concerned about receiving. So you're possessive, yes, but you're not obsessive. And that's a very important distinction to make, because this is what separates Agape from Mania, which we'll talk about soon. So having that sense of you are okay with them doing whatever they want, but you're also okay with the idea that they belong to you or they are yours. But you don't really have to have them to reciprocate those feelings, and you're both okay with that. The main thing is that both people, or all people involved, are okay with that. Otherwise, it's an unhealthy situation. And Agape can fall prey a lot of times to overgiving, where they give, and then they take a step back, look at themselves, and they figure out, hey, I've been giving all this time, and I have nothing left for myself, and I'm now in a very sad state. So that's where Agape can find its own pitfalls. It's a pro and a con to be always unconditionally giving or unconditionally loving somebody. And that's one of the interesting things about it, because it mixes storge, which is the familiar bond, and it mixes eros, which is the passionate part. So agape is, like I said, the purest form of love, in the sense you just love somebody unconditionally, you trust them with everything that you have, you give them what they want when they need it, if they need it or not, you're there to provide for them. And it's honorable. It's honorable. And moving on to the last one, number 3 in the secondary colors, we have Mania. And Mania is a mix of Lotus and Eros. And when those two combine, they form Mania, which Mania comes out of the word maniac or maniacal. And you guys might already picked up on this. It's kind of not a super healthy one to be in, but people are in this state and people slip into the state. It's okay. It's a natural cycle. It's healthy enough, just as long as you don't stay there, I assume. But Mania is all about the obsession or possessiveness of somebody. So it's kind of like agape gone wrong, where you love somebody and you love them a lot and you really, really, really want them to love you back, but they may not love you back, or they may not love you back as much as you want them to, and then you become super obsessive, super possessive of them. You start trying to force them to have feelings for you, and that's where it becomes very unhealthy very fast. Mania is what I like to call one of the gateways to having bad habits in relationships, where you're kind of forcing the other person to have certain emotions, which is never a healthy situation, because if the other person doesn't want to have those emotions, they shouldn't have to have those emotions. But if you fall into mania, you kind of find yourself, saying or doing things to try to force the other person to say, "Hey, I love you too," or "Hey, I care about you as well." And I can't say it enough. It's a very unhealthy state in my personal mind. But mania exists. Mania is something that we all slip into every once in a while. Just as long as we can recognize that we're there and back out of it, I think we'll all be fine. And if you do preside in mania, and if you're completely stuck and hell-bent on staying in mania, that's fine. Just make sure you monitor your stuff, because the last thing I want to happen is for you to have bad habits and start doing super emotionally abusive things towards either yourself or other people. And mania is susceptible to having some things happen to themselves. One of the main things is that a lot of anxiety comes in when you start saying that you love somebody. You're anxious because you want them to love you back, but you're fearful that everything's going to fall apart and break apart. And that can be a super no bueno situation to be in, especially when you're talking about trying to forge a new relationship, because it just makes you afraid to do new things. So mania is a very, very confusing and frustrating situation to be in, but it happens. So that's the last secondary color. And I think that's basically it. We talked about all 6 of the colors that are relevant right now. There's, like I said, there's tertiary colors, which are basically the secondary colors mixed with one of the primaries, or one of the other primaries, so like mania plus storge, which, I think is really weird, and I don't think we need to go that far. But if you want to go look up more on that, go look it up. I'll link the article that I used in the description below, so go check it out down there. And that's it for this video. So be on the lookout for more videos in the future like this. I will make a video talking about me and my state, where I find myself, where I think I am, and where I want to be, relative to this whole entire color wheel theory of love. And I hope this video is very informative and useful to you. Maybe you can go define your own sense of love. Maybe you can define somebody else's. Maybe you can say, "Hey, I'm here, but I want to be over there," and you can start working on it. I don't know. Hopefully this video is helpful to you. But as always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys whenever.